Whoa, calm down before you dislike the video and start writing a comment. Keep in mind that this video is just my opinion. I can understand why you may not like the ending, it definitely isn't perfect, and when I first read it, I also thought it was kind of odd. But in this video, I'm going to explain why I actually like this ending, why I think that this ending makes a lot of sense in the greater context of the story, and why I think it's a good conclusion to most of the characters. Also, I really recommend watching this video all the way through, because I really think that I might be able to change how you view this chapter. Alright, so I'm going to go through the chapter first, then explain some points after that. Eren and Armin are back in Shiganshina before the walls were destroyed, and Eren explains how he saw the future with the Attack Titan abilities, and that's one of the main reasons that he had to go through with the rumbling. Now, I'm not going to say that I predicted this, but just listen to this from my last video. But another thing that you have to consider is that Eren really didn't have much control over his destiny. Next, Eren explains his other reason for doing what he did. He pulled a Lelouch. He wanted to shoulder the hate of the world on his back and unite humanity against himself, so that the Alliance becomes the heroes of the new world. Anyways, Eren then explains the reason that Ymir has been trapped in the past for over 2,000 years, and that is that she's been in love with the original King Fritz. Now, you can explain this with it being Stockholm Syndrome, where you take a liking to your abuser after a period of time, but to be honest, I really didn't like this explanation. I would have preferred some other explanation, like maybe something similar to the Ackerman host response that Eren talked about before, where one of the side effects of being attached to the hallucigenia was that she became bound to the king as a host. Speaking of Ackerman, Eren then explains how Mikasa was actually the one chosen by Ymir to give her the freedom from her curse. So I'm assuming that by killing someone through love somehow showed Ymir that she shouldn't be binded by this curse of love to Karl Fritz. Okay, but now is where I think Isayama actually pulled a genius move when he showed Eren controlling Dina to eat Bertolt. Now, a lot of people thought that this was murdering Eren's character, but if you think about this, if Eren didn't do this, he wouldn't have developed his vengeful nature against the Titans, and even if he still joined the Scouts, he wouldn't have had the drive to fight the female Titan and he would have died. I think this poses a really interesting narrative because it shows us that Eren has not only been the protagonist of the story the whole time, but he's also been the antagonist. The true villain that he's been fighting this whole time really was himself. Anyways, then Eren goes on full simp mode for Mikasa, and again, I know that this seems really opposite to how Chad Eren has been acting for most of the last season, but if you look at Eren's behavior in the context of the larger series, these actions really are more fitting of Eren. They show how he went through a lot of internal struggle, and I think a lot of people were reading this really literally, but he doesn't actually want Mikasa to not move on, he's just expressing how strongly he feels for her, and I think that this is actually a supernatural reaction. Later, Eren explains how he doesn't know why exactly he went through with the rumbling and how Armin will be the next one who saves humanity. I know this is kind of weird, but I'll explain it more in a bit. Next, we go back to current time and everyone has had their individual memories with Eren become unlocked. And then we had a moment in the chapter that I feel was pretty universally liked, no matter where you stood on the chapter. But I felt offended at this part because I want to know where my boy Lobov is. Everybody talks about rest in peace Sasha or whatever, but nobody talks about this brave soul Lobov who was risking his life to ensure everyone was safe and had his life taken from him. Also, by the way, I don't want to hate on Lobov, but how the fuck did he gain weight after joining the Scouts? Like, I thought in order to survive in this world, you'd have to be in peak physical condition, but my man Lobov just put on like 20 pounds. But coming back to the chapter, we have our Lelouch moment where Armin explains that he was the one that killed Eren Yeager, and that they don't have the power to turn into Titans anymore. Now here's another contentious thing, some people found it hard to believe that they would be convinced that easily. But look at it this way, the 20% of humanity was literally about to die. They were on the brink of having their entire population wiped, and then a group of people come and save all of you. If you're in their position, you're not really going to be thinking about revenge, you're going to be happy that your life and your entire family's lives are saved. Yeah, sure, a lot of these people won't be able to forgive them, but in this case specifically, they literally just witnessed them being saved. It's not like it was obscure who the ones that saved them are, it literally happened right in front of them. And in the long term, they don't really have the weapons or manpower to be able to incite revenge against Paradis on a large scale. They need to recover from their civilization being literally wiped out. On the other hand, Paradis is building like a mega empire army. So people say that Eren failed by not wiping out all of humanity, but really the rest of the world won't be able to do shit to Eren for a long ass time. And at the end of the chapter we have this moment with our main characters grown up, and they literally all had such a huge glow up except for Annie. Yeah, I liked her better before. Now I'm not sure if people really caught on to this, but the main characters are now the ambassadors of peace for the outside world. They're going to Paradis so that they can hopefully convince them that they don't need to go to war with the rest of the world. And the reason that they won't get killed because they betrayed Paradis is because Historia is still their ally and she's the queen. I think that this is the best explanation as to why Historia had her baby, because as explained before, if she was pregnant she wouldn't have to get the Beast Titan powers, because the transfer would probably kill her. And she needed to stay safe and alive as the leader of Paradis because she's the only one who has the power to ensure that there's peace between Paradis and the rest of the world. And I also thought that this was really cool, where Armin explains how the story of Attack on Titan will essentially be what will convince Paradis that they should forget about fighting and not go to war. I always love when stories do shit like this. This explains why Armin is the narrator of Attack on Titan, because he's explaining to Paradis everything that's happened in their story. And finally, we end the chapter with Mikasa at Eren's grave with Bird Eren. Now I don't think that Eren is actually a bird. I think that this is just supposed to show how Eren will always be watching from the afterlife or paths or whatever. Alright, so now that we're all caught up, I want to explain some of the main points of the chapter. First of all, why did Eren go through with the rumbling? So here's the thing, I don't think that there's a single reason for why Eren went through with it. Firstly, it evened out the rest of the world so that Paradis' safety and future is ensured for many years. Secondly, by shouldering the hate of the world on himself, he's able to make Armin and the others the heroes of the world. Third, he was able to end the Titan curse so that no more lives will be brutally killed by the Titans. But all these reasons don't really warrant genocide, which is why I think that the main reason is that it was all Eren's destiny. Eren explains how he can see the past, present, and future at once with the Founding Titan ability. And if you think about it, it's actually pretty similar to the royal family, where essentially Eren inherits the will of going through the rumbling from his future self. Now what he did was absolutely fucked, but really he didn't have an option. Eren is essentially trapped in himself. This explains how Eren just has to keep moving forward. Eren really isn't actually free, he's actually the biggest slave in the story, and I think that this is what made Eren go insane in some parts of the story. I also think that this is how Eren says that he's the same as Reiner, because if you remember in the second season, Reiner started to think that he was actually a soldier for Paradis, when in reality he was the opposite of that, similar to how Eren began to think that he's actually free. However, unlike Reiner, Eren realized that he just needs to keep moving forward. The next criticism is that the ending is just really boring. There weren't really any insane twists or reveals. Now yes, I will say that this ending and some of the previous chapters don't sound extremely interesting on paper, but I think that what makes these chapters is their emotional power. These last couple of chapters have had some really powerful emotional moments, whether it be extremely hype moments or extremely tragic moments. These chapters have been an emotional roller coaster. However, I think that this kind of doesn't really translate well into a manga format, especially when you're reading month by month and forgetting stuff that happened before. I think that if MAPPA does this last arc well, you'll see how powerful this last arc is and some of the strong emotional moments that it had. Now the last criticism is pretty much that my ending theory didn't come true. As someone who's made 2 theory videos at this point, I know that if you're going into a chapter with the expectation for a certain ending to happen, you're going to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. I know that some of these ending theories were really amazing, but at the end of the day, Isayama can't make an ending that will satisfy every single theory. If you're one of these people, try to look at the ending with an open mind, and even if you end up not liking it, just think about all the amazing moments that we had in the series and how truly masterful the writing for this series is. I mean, you wouldn't get this upset at the ending if the story that came before it wasn't brilliant. I did a community poll recently and I found that most people actually thought the ending was alright but needed some more explaining. And I generally agree with this. I think that if the entire last couple of chapters were like 50% longer, Isayama would have been able to really drive home some of the points that he made, and you wouldn't have to reread and reflect on these chapters to actually understand some of these things. But anyways, it's actually insane that this series is over. I've been following the series for over 3 years now, but I remember hearing some other kids talking about it in elementary school and I thought that's like some weird shit. But then here I am like 8 years down the line and I'm making videos about this series. It's actually insane where life can take you, but that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you guys later.